Do I have a VOD of me playing Baldur's Gate 3? I do not. I've never actually played Baldur's Gate 3. I've met the cast, I've met the people that made it. I went to beta test it, and I still haven't actually played the game. I've got it behind me in a big box, just never actually installed it. I'm scared to install it. Look, if you want me to keep making content, you will support the fact that I haven't got it installed. Alright, you got 3 minutes, go make a cup of tea. Go make a cup of tea right now. Do it, that's an order. You know there's a minute left, but that's okay. We can just chat. When was the last time we just sat and had a chat? It's been a while. This is the streaming room, by the way. It's almost set up fully now. It's not completed, but in general, I'm pretty happy with it. It sparks joy. I'm not muted. Don't do that, right? Because you make me... Oh, I've got stories for you guys. Stories of Magic the Gathering. Stories of a train. Is it a fluffy hair day? Yeah, it is. I didn't use any hair gel. You forgive me? You forgive me? This is naturally what my hair does, okay? If I don't gel it, I look a little bit like a background anime character with that kind of quiff forward. It's very thick kind of hair thing going on. But if I don't bother gelling it, this is just what happens. This is what we get. Okay? And when I went to the barber's last time, for some reason, they've shaved it here way too much. Like, I've got a kind of weird JoJo quiff thing going on, which, I mean, I can rock with it, I can work it. We can have this happen for a bit, this is fine. This is not my final, not even my final form. So you can now have the room tour of the stuff that's behind me. This is the room. This is... I mean, I'm happy with it. It sparks joy. That's what it does. You've got to have the room that sparks joy when you walk into. You don't want to be somewhere. I want to work. Notice me, Josh. I've noticed you. Is that a sock on the back of the microphone? Yes. It's pretty self-explanatory as to why. Do I need to explain this? Okay, fine, I'll explain it. You know the whole joke I have of putting the microphone in a mug? When I make videos, I have the actual microphone itself in the mug. If you don't have something as a barrier between the microphone and the mug, because it's metal on ceramic, it kind of reverberates and rattles while it's in the mug. So, I will unscrew the microphone from here, put the microphone into the mug with the sock protection, and then when you speak, it doesn't reverb, it absorbs the sound. See? You're kind of disappointed in the lack of wall shelving to full mugs. Over there is an entire IKEA Kallax unit of mugs. That's all there is. Genuinely. That's all there is. Why is there the East and the West Midlands? That's a good question. Thousands of years ago, back when the Midlands was formed, we discovered that the East were brutal savages that should never be interacted with in any way. And so a wall was built. But none of us had any bricks, so we all just kind of collectively agreed that there was a wall. And so the West Midlands, in many ways the superior Midlands, rose up. Then, unfortunately, the South was created. London was built. Then the North was created. And then the Midlands realised that despite being clearly the superior part of the UK, we would never be as relevant as neither the South or the North, because the South unfortunately has London, and the North has all of the people that passionately hate people from the South. Problem with this is, if you're from the South, you see the Midlands as being part of the North. And if you're from the North, you see the Midlands as being part of the South. Which means that the Midlands exists in this kind of strange, kind of ambiguous hierarchy bit between both, where we're accepted by neither. And so the Midlands, the East and the West Midlands, had to momentarily put aside their differences, band together as just the Midlands, and defend from both the North and the South. People talk about the UK North-South divide, but the true losers in all of this, the people that have definitely had it hardest, are from the middle of England. It's true. Would you like to hear my story of being on a train? Because, oh my god, it was one hell of a train ride. And I said things that I thought were very funny. The problem was, I sometimes forget that people don't always exist on the internet. And some of my references, or my turns of phrases, or my way of speaking, sometimes doesn't translate very well. It's like Tumblr humor. Like, if you make a Tumblr joke on Tumblr, very funny. Make it in the real world, people don't get it at all. So, on Saturday, which is yesterday, that's why I wasn't streaming yesterday, I went all the way down to, I say down, kind of across to Cardiff. To Firestorm Games to play in the Magic the Gathering Duskmorn House of Horrors pre-release event. And I'll be real with you, Duskmorn, pretty banging set. Alright, genuinely enjoyed it. Actually, genuinely had a good time. Much slower than a lot of other Magic the Gathering sets. Games aren't decided on turn 1 or 2 anymore. They very much go to turn 5 or 6, 7 or 8, which was lovely for me because I prefer a kind of slower, grindy mid-game. Genuinely enjoyed playing Magic the Gathering Duskmourn. Played against some very talented people, met some lovely people. Firestorm games are always a good time. Manifest Dread is a great mechanic and needs to stay around forever, because I got that green card that lets you Manifest Dread X times and then add X +1/+1 counters on it. That just blows people out at the end of the day. That's brilliant. That was fantastic. So, went down, played some Magic, bought some Warhammer, had a really good time. Then, got a train back. Now, the train from Cardiff to Birmingham is about 3 hours long. It's a long time for a train ride. I didn't realise that Cardiff had just finished a football match against Leeds. Now, you might not think this to look at me, but I'm not exactly a football kind of man. I don't howay the lads, if you will. I very much don't partake in the chanting. I'm not really one for banter, if you will. I know, some of you look at me and go, but Josh, you've got a North Face jacket. You could go and drink a pint with Barry, all that kind of stuff. I don't howay the lads. I'm sorry, guys. I know you do. I know many people do, but I am not one to partake in the culture of soccer. So unfortunately, what happened was I got on a train with about 300 or 400 other people. The problem was the train was designed for about 200 people. So it was standing room only. Like, I was literally absolutely squidged in. I'm holding there my bag of Warhammer, and I'm absolutely crushed in, and they're chanting. People are chanting. Who comes up with football chants, and how does everyone know it? It's tribal to me. Standing and listening to people chanting football songs, which use actual well-known songs but replace the lyrics with other stuff. Is there some kind of secret meeting that I don't know about where they all sit down, all the hardcore football fans, and go, okay, gentlemen, today we've got to the tune of Auld Lang Syne, but we've replaced it with these lyrics and these players and this thing and this grounds and this and this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, off we go. They do it at the pub and then they just remember it. Like, it's the most amazing sign of collective learning. So what then happened was I'm standing there listening to these chants and I'm learning about lots about the players, lots about the fact that many of them are... What surprises me is there were both the Leeds fans and the Cardiff fans on this train, and both sides, according to the other, are scientifically what I referred to as apparently shite. Which surprises me, because apparently they're all professional football players, and yet all of them, if you listen to the chants, are rubbish. I'm not quite sure how they've made it as professional football players if they're that bad. But that's what I learned. Anyway, I'm standing there, a bag of Warhammer, and then a couple of drunk football fans try to make conversation, because I look like this. Okay? I'm standing there in like a white shirt and a waistcoat. I stick out like a bit of a sore thumb here, and I can't really engage in the banter as well. You know, if they come over to me and they're like, "What are you lads?" And I'm like, "Oh, yes, absolutely. What you just said, I agree with. And I think we should be friends at least for the next 2.5 hours, because otherwise I'm going to feel in danger." And they tried, and they were like, someone pointed to the bag of Warhammer. They're like, "You're doing your Christmas shopping early." I'm like, "Oh, no, this is just for me. I just like Warhammer." And he's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's just little plastic models that you glue together, paint, and then play like a little war game with." And he's like, "Oh, like Sabutio." And I'm thinking, no. But at the same time, I do understand that you're trying to engage in good faith, and I don't have the energy to explain how and why you're wrong. So I just said yes. And they were like, yeah, once they understood that, because it wasn't said out of malice, it was genuine. A lot of people, whenever you talk to someone who doesn't quite have the same hobby that you do, but they want to engage with you, they'll try and find a way to relate it back to something they understand. And they're doing that because they want to kind of reframe or recontextualize the conversation in a place that they feel comfortable with. So instead of just saying no and then going off on one and explaining, you kind of just said, yeah, kind of like Sabutio. And we went with that, and we had a lovely conversation. That wasn't the bad part of the train ride. The bad part came later. So I'm on this train going back for like 2.5, 3 hours. There is a massive storm in the Midlands yesterday. Places were flooded. I mean, I'm talking like 10 trains were cancelled, loads of stuff flooded. Birmingham was pretty much flooded. And I was checking the Trainline app, and it was just cancelled. So I was trying really hard to get back, and it was far too busy. So I'm sat on the train, and then a load of rugby fans get on, because apparently there's a rugby game happening, and then a load of cricket fans get on. So you have this one train designed for about 300 to 400 people now, because carriages have joined it, with at least 500 or 600 people on it. Everything is absolutely packed. And there is that old joke that football is a gentleman's game played by thugs, whereas rugby is a thug's game played by gentlemen. And unfortunately, that very much stands true whenever the fans or the supporters get onto the train. Because the football guys are all standing on there, they've all got cans of Stella in their hand, they're all pissed, that they look scary. And then the rugby guys get on, who are absolutely jacked, and are all just standing there, just chatting away, nice and calmly and nice and lovely to everyone. Unfortunately, it's very accurate. The cricket fans, I think, were trying to hide from both of them, which was great. And I was just kind of standing in between everyone. This is this is not a preamble to an elaborate joke. This is genuinely 100% a story that happened yesterday. I'm sharing my life with you. But what then happened was, I was standing, and there was a table on the train. There was a chap who was very drunk, remarkably drunk. He had a bottle of wine in front of him. He had a couple of cans of cider, a couple of cans of Stella, a couple of cans of other stuff, and he would not stop chanting. Different football songs, different rugby songs. He was from Cardiff. Everyone had to know he was from Cardiff. This man was chanting and shouting and screaming for about an hour. And there was a kind of an older lady sat next to him who was just putting up with him. A gentleman on the other side, a kind of larger gentleman, who was joking along with him because I think he felt he had a friend. And then there was a young lady sat who was reading a book, who had glasses on, and everyone kept making Harry Potter jokes. And she got very upset about this, and eventually just, while she was reading, ended up going, yes, well done, and then returning to her book, which showed remarkable restraint on her part. The problem comes when the drunk chap, the extremely drunk chap, just turns to me and is like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm involved now. I don't want to be involved here. But unfortunately, I couldn't stop myself getting involved. And I decided, well, there's at least 2 or 3 people on this train physically between us. He's unlikely to fight me. If he did, he's drunk. I can probably be quite humorous in this situation. And this is the part where I forgot that my humour doesn't always translate to everyone randomly around me. So I just looked and I said, I play video games. And he's like, oh, what kind of video games? I'd beat you at FIFA. I'm like, you probably would. And I'm just staying completely calm here. And he goes, oh, would you like that? I'll come round to your house, we'll play some FIFA. And I went, I can't possibly explain how much I don't want that to happen. And some people in the carriage then kind of laughed at that, and that was a problem. Because as soon as they laughed at that, I'm like, I see. Some people understand the level of humour I'm going with here. And the drunk chap that was talking to me was, he was trying to engage, and he was trying to be funny. And he looked and he was like, so what kind of games do you play then, I'm like, just any kind of video games that catch my fancy, really. He's like, oh, I've played Assassin's Creed, yeah? You played Assassin's Creed? I'm like, yeah, I've played Assassin's Creed. He's like, have you played all of them? I'm like, I don't think I've played all of them. He's like, yeah, I used to do Assassin's Creed in my bedroom, I'd jump around the place, I'd jump on the side, swing across the lights, and I'd jump across, and I'd do all that athletic stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just did it in the game. It was much less strenuous. And he kept talking, and he kept talking, and he kept talking for a while. And eventually then, he left. He realised there were some football fans down the other end of the train, and he stood up and made his way past the incredibly packed carriage and went down to the end. Of course, what that then happened was the older lady moved across and sat where he was sitting so somebody else could sit down. But all of his cans were still on the table in front of him. He'd left them, all the wine bottles there. So I kind of made a joke, and I went, anyone that walks past now is going to look at you and think, oh, she's had a good night. And she kind of laughed, and I laughed, and there was a bit of banter going on, and I understood, and we were bonding over the awkward experience of being on a train like this. And then the lines that I said were, anyone's going to see you and think, oh, wow, she's definitely been out drinking, she's ready for a good night. And when I said that phrase, she's ready for a good night, The older gentleman, the larger gentleman who had previously been laughing along with the drunk chap, he kind of turned to me and he said, "I beg your pardon?" And I went, "What?" And she's like, "You can't say that about a lady. She's ready for a good night." And I went, "Oh, no. I'm not implying that, she's ready for someone to sleep with her. It's just a turn of phrase of saying, oh, you've had a bit of a drunk, you're ready to go and have a good night. Just like that." And the older, kind of the larger man was angry at that point. He was looking for things to be angry about. And the lady was kind of laughing with me. We understood. And I said, unless you're into that, unless that's what you want from a night. And she laughed and I said, unless that's the kind of energy that you're bringing, the vibe that you're going with. And then she laughed at that and I laughed at that. And I turned to the guy and I said, "See, you've just got to kind of get a handle on who you're talking to and what that kind of vibe is to make the jokes." Which to me meant, you've got to understand the context that you're making the joke in and understand the other person wants the joke to be made. But what he heard me say was, you've got to get a handle on who you're talking to. As if I was threatening him from who I was. And he looked at me and he was like, "Oh, do you?" And I'm like, "Not that way." And I had to explain it to him. And that was when I realized that talking to everyone as I talk to my friend, it was literally a case of, do you know who I think I am? It was a case of talking to random drunk strangers the same way that I talk to my friends or on Twitch doesn't always have the same energy that I think it has. I still think it was very funny. I had a good time, because then I turned around and there was a gentleman behind me who had overheard the whole thing and was completely on the level with the whole thing, and we had a lovely chat. That was great. He worked in IT. We just talked for a bit. I was indeed wearing my uniform when that happened. And then there was I think it was an Asian chap sat behind on another chair, and we just got talking about video games, because that guy was like, "Hey, I heard you mention video games." He was a really big CSGO player. So we just chatted about that for ages. We talked about, he played CSGO, he was playing a bit of Rocket League, all that kind of stuff. But it was an awkward train ride, to be real. It was very much an awkward train ride. Josh was about to channel Henry Cavill from Mission Impossible. I was. I should have been wearing the Bumblebee outfit. That would have confused some of the football fans. But it was a train ride that I don't particularly want to repeat anytime soon. It was fun for a bit, and then, thankfully, everyone kind of got off the train. There was a moment where I had a really good bit of interaction with train staff, actually. The train was too busy. I thought, you know what, I'm going to get off at this station, I'm going to wait for the next train, and then I'm going to get on that one instead, because I don't want to be stood here for the next hour. So, I got off the train, I waited for a bit, I realised the next train would be along in about an hour and a half, and my phone was on low battery. So I walked over to one of the station attendants, I'm like, "Hey man, sorry to bother you, is there somewhere I can charge my phone up, please?" And he kind of looked around at all of the football fans, drunk and screaming, and then looked at me and went, "Yeah, that's fine." And then just pointed me to the station master's office. So I just walked over, took out the USB charger, plugged it in, and just kind of stood there having a chat with the station master for a bit. And when he realised that I wasn't going to kind of kick off and make trouble, he kind of went, "Yeah, that's fine. You can just leave your stuff here and chill out for a bit. There's a Tesco's down the road if you want to go and get a bite to eat." And I said, "Yeah, that's fantastic. I'll pop to Tesco's, I'll grab a sandwich. Do you want anything?" And he said, "Well, officially I'm not allowed to ask you, but thank you for the offer." So, left my bag at the station, walked to Tesco's, grabbed myself a sandwich, picked up a box of cornflake chocolate clusters as well, and then walked back, took my phone out the wall, packed everything up, turned and went, "Officially, I'm going to leave these clusters here. What you do with them is up to you." And then I just walked off. That is how you unofficially thank someone for being a decent person. See? Unofficial. I did nothing. I wasn't involved with that at all. He was doing his job. And then I got the second train back and walked back. And thankfully, on the second train back to actual Birmingham, sat next to a lovely girl who was an actress and has just kind of finished training and was doing some kind of film and TV and theatre work. So we just talked about theatre and TV for a while, which was great. Officially, Josh was callous and ungrateful. Unofficially, however, yeah, officially, unofficially, that's how we do things. But no, I tend to talk to people on trains because it's not London. Like, on London, you talk to somebody else. No. You've broken a social contract, broken a rule, don't do it. You're not allowed to anymore. So the Twitch time yesterday unfortunately didn't happen. That's why Twitch didn't happen. But you know what we're going to do today, guys? You know what we're going to do today? We are going to play a book. I've just realised the green screen isn't up. I've got to put the green screen up. You're going to see me stand up. Thankfully, I'm wearing jeans. I am still wearing slippers, though. That is true.